Hello friends, what are the names of the two banks going to be privatized? Will the government announce the name of the two banks by next week? Will there be transfer of staff members from these two banks to other public sector banks before privatization? These are the crucial questions the bank employees in the country are now concerned about. The reason for the concern is some of the latest reports about bank privatization published by certain leading financial newspapers. Ever since the finance minister announced in the budget session that the government has decided to privatize two public sector banks, a lot of speculations have been going on and various theories have been floating around regarding the names of these two banks. The finance minister had stated in the post-budget press meeting that the government had not yet finalized the names of these two banks, but the name of different banks were being discussed in the media as the possible candidates for privatization. First, it was the relatively smaller banks like Bank of Maharashtra and Punjab and Sind Bank. Then some media were reporting that it could be even bigger banks like Punjab National Bank and Bank of Baroda. Since the sale of such major banks will only fetch the amount the government is planning to earn by the sale of the banks. The government has a target of rupees 1.75 lakh crore this financial year for disinvestment, and if they have to achieve the same, they will have to go for selling the bigger and stronger banks. In the meantime, Reuters, the news agency quoting sources in the finance ministry, reported that the government had shortlisted 4 banks for privatization. The banks were Central Bank of India, Indian Overseas Bank, Bank of India and Bank of Maharashtra. But the very next day, some other financial news portals reported that no such decision had been taken by the government. Therefore, rumors and stories are having a field day for the last 3 or 4 weeks after the finance minister's announcement about privatization. But it appears that the government has not yet finalized the name of the banks to be privatized. And going by the statements of the finance minister Nirmala Sitharaman and her deputy Mr. Anurag Thakur, it is clear that no bank, whether large, medium or small size, is safe from being selected for privatization. The only possible exception perhaps is only State Bank of India. There are also reports that the government will be soon amending the 2 acts by which banks were nationalized in 1969 and 1980, which will open the doors for the privatization of the 2 banks. Now, according to the latest reports, the names of the 2 banks selected for privatization is likely to be made known shortly. It is reported that the Finance Ministry will be holding discussions with the Niti Aayog over the next 10 days to identify the candidates for privatization. The government will then begin the groundwork for the process, which will include legal changes and discussions with the Reserve Bank of India on the criteria for potential buyers. Till then, the speculations and rumors in the media will be continuing as usual. Apart from this, there is also another news coming out that the staff members in the above banks may be transferred to other public sector banks before privatization. According to these reports, during the disinvestment process, the interests of employees will also be considered and they could be offered the option to shift to another PSB before privatization. This is something new, and if it is true, there could be transfer of staff members from the privatization candidates to some other selected PSBs. But it remains to be seen how the government will handle the situation if all the employees or even majority of the employees opt for joining another PSB instead of being part of a private sector bank. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has recently said in an interview with a financial daily that the interests of all sections including workers would be safeguarded. The government obviously will negotiate with the bidders and ensure that the staff members will continue to get their pension even after disinvestment by the government. Some news agencies have also reported that the government may go for another round of merger of banks before kickstarting the privatization process. So, every day some kind of new developments and speculations are reported by different media. Invariably, they are all reporting these new items, quoting some sources in the finance ministry whose identity they are not willing to disclose. Therefore, these are all unconfirmed reports which we can take with a pinch of salt only. But if the news of Niti Aayog's proposed meeting with Finance Ministry is correct, we may at least come to know the names of the two PSBs whose days as public sector undertakings are numbered. Thank you.